Hi, Eric Lanask. We're here in Las Vegas at Wearable Tech Expo, and joining me is David Troop from Xensr. David, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's great to be here.
So you guys are doing some interesting things around wearables. I know there's a lot of conversation around fitness trackers and smartwatches and things like that, but there's an entirely different segment of the industry that we haven't talked about much yet, and that's sports. What's going on with sports and wearables?
So with sports, wearables are great for a lot of the casual consumer, just general activity tracking. When it comes to action sports, there's so much going on, just the forces involved. The actual sensors that are used in like your phone or in a Fitbit, they just can't be used in action sports because the sensors just don't function. So we built new hardware from the ground up that can handle the G loading, the spin rates, and all of the things that you associate with action sports, snowboarding, skateboarding, windsurfing, that kind of stuff.
So, aside from the hardware, how does the data that's collected change when you move, let's say, to action sports?
Well, the data rate goes way up. So, a typical action or activity tracker will track you at maybe 10, 15 samples per second. We do 1,000 samples per second.
Wow.
And we do all the analytics in real time, so you don't have to take all your data, then upload it to the cloud and do the analytics. Our data happens on the fly real time. So if you're snowboarding, as soon as you land that jump, you know how high you went, how far you went, how many rotations you did, all your stats are done in real time. It's all transmitted in real time, so it's not only to your app, but to your action camera, to your goggle, to if it's got a display in it, to your smartwatch, or any of the devices that the athlete might have on them, which also, because it's real time, opens up the whole opportunity for competitions. So you and I can go out and be like, all right, highest jump wins, that kind of stuff, or you can go out into a more of an official setting where you can go to an organized contest where the consumers or the audience is watching the data in real time, the judges see the data, and it just changes how sports can be consumed.
So it's nice to be able to say that, hey, you know what, we process the data, it would give you the information dump in real time. But realistically speaking, so if I do that jump on my snowboard or whatever, I'm certainly not going to land and hit the ground and then check out to see how high I went or what my rotation angle was or what that. So what's the real benefit to the user of being able to process in real time?
Well, a lot of if you're training, you're trying to land that 540 or whatever your move is, you might go and do the jump and then stop and land, and then look. Okay, what I do? I want to compare the data to my video. Maybe my buddies are shooting video. Let's look at what's going on, and I go back and do it again because so many of the action sports athletes today, they want to nail that stuff. They're competing. I mean, a lot of the non-pros are actually competing on a professional level in terms of how they're performing their sport, and so they really will go nuts about the data and check it all out, that kind of stuff. Then there's also the general data. Look, hey, how many hours a week up in Tahoe did I snowboard this week? How many vertical feet did I do? How many jumps did I do? How much this? How much that? And then the data gets kind of interesting. Like I wrecked my ankle 2 years ago windsurfing, and my orthopedic surgeon knows what we do, and he said, "All right, Dave, let me see the data. How bad was it when you ruined your ankle?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just under 20 G's a load." And he looked at it, and they do a lot with the NFL, and he sees a lot of shear loads. For him as a physician, it was interesting for him to look at the data from a sport he doesn't see a whole lot of, which is windsurfing.
Now, what's the difference between, so yours isn't actually a wearable product. What is the difference between yours and the actual wearables out there?
So our device actually mounts on the equipment of the athlete. So you put this on your snowboard or on your skis or on your wakeboard, on your mountain bike, and so you've got a common mounting location because there are things in sports where if I'm wearable and I've got to say, you can get goggles with devices in them. Well, I can do a 180 snowboarding and my head never moves. So that's not where you want to get the data from. So we built the device and you can go and you can put in the location you want to get the data from. And if you want to get it from multiple points, you can put it in multiple points. You can nest a couple devices together. So in like kiteboarding, I've got a kiteboard and I've got a kite in the sky. I might put one on the kite in the sky and put one on my board because different maneuvers change depending on what happens between the kite and the board. And so I can look at the full view of what's really going on. For mountain biking, I might have one on my frame and one on the shock. So for downhill, I can see how much shock travel I got going on. I can then tune my bike a little more. I can tune it less. And there's a lot of variables that get used by depending on where you mount the devices at.
What do you see as the future of the market?
They're going to get smaller, faster, more data, more sensors. Even this unit that we have out now, V2 is already in production. with a new Xensr suite on it. It just keeps, like most tech, it just keeps rolling forward and rolling forward. And you're going to see these devices talking to each other. The data doesn't just stay on one device or stay into one person's cloud repository. This data's got to talk to each other, because that gives the athletes or all consumers just a better experience in making that their camera and their devices and their phone and their audio headsets, all this stuff works together to really function for them and what they're trying to do.
Will they make sports safer for the athletes?
It can. So we have some manufacturers that are using our devices to actually, again, make their products safer and make them more robust. There's also, like for example, like my ankle. We knew what exactly happened. We knew how much load went into that kind of stuff, and so those are things that we take into consideration. Where now I'm a recovering athlete, and so I really keep an eye. And I know I can't push myself so far, so I'll do maneuvers. I can go back. It looks like I'm still in my G loading range where it's okay for me to keep functioning, and so that's good for me to look at after the fact. So I'm rehabbing, but I'm not re-injuring.
Excellent, David. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man.